1800s. It was built, and it's called the Boathouse because when you go outside you'll see where that backyard is was just rock and grass and was underwater, and there was a big door there that let the tide in at high tide, so the boats would come into the back, what essentially was the back garden, and they used to have deliveries of coal here, and the coal then went into Laugharne. It went from here to Laugharne, and it was a very busy road because the top road, they used to take a lot of lime from the quarry over there up to St Clair's, and there were boats and things going up and down to St Clair's, but also if they were going across to Llansteffan, there was several fords, so they used to take the horse and cart up and go across the ford to Llansteffan, because it meant it was A, it was shorter, and B, they avoided having to pay any tolls on the road. So it's a nice shortcut. So the house itself was quite old, and when it was first built, there were two families living here. So when you go round and you think that when the Thomases were here there were only 5 of them, and one of those was a baby, but prior to that there had been 2 families living here. Whether they lived side by side or one on top of the other, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, so it's got an interesting history. We celebrated Dylan Thomas's centenary in 2014, and I think the whole world fetched up to the Boathouse that year. So yes, we do get a lot of people through. We get about, I don't know, 30,000 people through in a year. Even in the winter, when you think, you know, it's chucking it down with rain and it's blowing a gale, and you think nobody's going to come today, and they do. And the other thing is, of course, we're on the coast path, the Wales coast path. We're actually on that coast path, so a lot of walkers and that in the winter coming through pop in to see us. My job description is, or my job title is Arts Coordinator, and it involves looking after the boathouse. It involves talking to people like you. It involves cleaning the toilets on times, or working in the kitchen, or anything and everything that you can think of. And I also work in the gate in St Clair's and do a similar role there. So it could mean that one day I'm talking to people like you, and the next day I'm making barra-breath in the kitchen. So it's as simple as that. My favourite thing about the house is the view out of the window. If you look out of the window and you can see right across the estuary, and that is absolutely beautiful. And I also like this room particularly, and I'm very partial to the desk because it's Dylan Thomas's father's desk, so we're very fond of that piece of furniture. My favourite story is probably Child's Christmas in Wales, because I like it because it's got lots of snow and drama and action. But my favourite piece of work by Dylan Thomas has to be his play Under Milkwood, and I've actually acted in that play. I love that play. Started a love affair with Dylan Thomas and a love affair with theatre at the age of 7 when I first saw him perform, which is a long time ago. I was here on Valentine's Day, believe it or not, a couple of years ago, 2014, and this people came up and the weather was atrocious, and I said to them, why have you come over in this awful weather? And it turned out that he'd been filming, they'd been making a film in Swansea and they wanted to come to the Boathouse. So I actually got kissed on the cheek by Elijah Wood on Valentine's Day. There's a picture of Pierce Brosnan at the front, and Michael Sheen's been here when I was here, and they filmed one of the episodes of the first series of Our Girl, which was on the television. That was filmed here, and there was a wonderful shot of the estuary and everything, and it was a miserable day that day as well, so that was all exciting. So it's an interesting life. Why Dylan Thomas so popular today? I think it's because what he wrote resonates with lots of people. So you can read the poetry, you can watch the play, or listen to the play even, and the characters that are there, you know people like that. And also he liked to have fun with words. He was a great person for putting words together or creating words, and I think that's what appeals to people, and that's why he's still very popular with people today. Well, I think he was a small boy at the time when small boys didn't like going to school. I think it's still, in some cases, the same today. I think it was because he had to work, and I suspect he was probably a little bit lazy, so he didn't want to use his brain. He liked his English lessons. There we are, he liked going for English, but otherwise, if he could skive off, he would. How did I get my job? I got my job because I came wandering down to the boathouse. I moved away from Laugharne, and then we moved back to Laugharne, and I was unemployed at the time, and I came down and I saw the lady who is currently my boss, and I said, "Can I have a job, please?" And she was a bit desperate, she must have been, and she took me on, and I started as a casual person just down in the tea room, and then moved my way up. There's no secret door, but there is a secret tunnel.
Ooh.
And when Eronwy was a child, they were playing in Thomas's, and it goes down because there is a set of steps going down to the shore. So there were all sorts of rumours that once upon a time it was probably used by smugglers, so it has got a bit of a past. We think how true that is, I don't know. It was turned into a museum by the local authority, the Carmarthenshire County Council, about 1975, so that's what, 40 years. My maths isn't that good to give you an exact number, but over 40 years people have been coming here. Difficult one to answer. He wrote lots of poetry, he wrote under Milkwood, a lot of his short stories and his broadcasts were also published. So he actually produced about, I don't know, a dozen volumes. But since he, well, when he was alive and since he died, a lot of collections of poetry have been put together again and published. So it's very difficult to be quite definitive about the number. But if you say quite a few, I think you'd be close. And if you go upstairs, you'll see we've got some books upstairs where his work has been translated into other languages. So you can see in German and Chinese. He's very, very popular. We get a lot of German visitors here. He's very, very popular in Germany. I don't know why, and I wouldn't have thought he translated particularly well into German, but I think perhaps they study him in English. But we do get a huge number. That's probably the most foreign visitors that we get is from Germany, surprisingly.